If you have tuned in anywhere, you know that the Pittsburgh Steelers ship has sunk. It's over. Season done, dude. Season done. Well, we're going to see how done it is. It's Tuesday. We're diving into Overreaction Tuesday.
It's a fine line between, drinking wine and squashing grapes, as we say in this business, and sometimes it's very subtle.
Shout out our boy. All right. Hit me with it. Week 16, Pittsburgh Steelers, Baltimore Ravens. Overreaction Tuesday starts now.
When it comes to overreactions, is there any position that we overreact to as a nation more than the quarterback position in the National Football League? Of course not. Of course not. So with that, that's how we're going to kick off this edition of Overreaction Tuesday. Russell Wilson needs, in all caps, needs to win the AFC North to secure his role on the Steelers roster in 2025.
Ooh, who you asking? You asking me or you asking Mike Tomlin?
I'm asking you right now.
If it's me, if I'm making the decisions, I don't think that's an overreaction at all. I'm looking at it going, what did you do for us? Nothing. You won 10 games. Everybody predicted the Steelers to win 10 games. That's where the Steelers were supposed to be. They were supposed to win 10 games this season. And if you asked a lot of people, the Steelers were supposed to win 10 games right up until where they won 10 games. Maybe one extra one against Cincinnati, depending on how you felt about there. And I apologize for my camera here. Let's see if we could flip it around. We cannot. So we're just rocking with it. I'm telling you, the Pittsburgh Steelers are exactly where everybody predicted them to be in June, in July, in August. They are not exceeding it. Go back. Go look at our record prediction. We haven't beaten Philly. We haven't beaten Kansas City. We haven't beaten Baltimore the second time or Cincinnati the second time. This is where it was. They were 10-4 right here. Russell Wilson has not exceeded any expectations to this point. And with bad games, when you don't have a top wide receiver, the rule of thumb, what we said when he came out here in the beginning, when Mike Tomlin made the switch the first time, it was all great quarterbacks make average wide receivers good. Well, Russell Wilson made average wide receivers look below average against the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't know about that one, my friend. I'm going, if you ask me, that is not an overreaction. If you ask Mike Tomlin, I think that contract's already been signed.
Let's jump over to the next one, and the same backfield, but a different position. Najee Harris's fumble last week is the excuse the Steelers needed to make Jaylen Warren the primary running back for the rest of the season.
That's also not an overreaction. I don't know if it's good or bad when we agree to start off this run here, but that is not an overreaction. That is what the Steelers should do. It's what they should have done the last 3 weeks. The magic has run off. That's where we are. Arthur Smith's offense is not working with Najee Harris right now. I don't know if it works with Jaylen Warren. I have no idea. But it's not working with the option that they have. And because of that, you got to change it up. You got to try something. The Steelers already know Jaylen's their guy next season. It's crazy if he's not. Why would you not try it right now? I don't think that's an overreaction either. Why would it be? Why would the Steelers not try something new when they got 56 rushing yards against the Philadelphia Eagles? 56, Nick. 13 of those were Russell Wilson. That means running backs combined for 43 yards against Philadelphia in a game where you needed your running game to win that game because you didn't have George Pickens. I'm sorry. It's time. I agree. That is the excuse they need. That's also not an overreaction.
All right, here's a fun one for you. Looking at the other side of this rivalry, the Baltimore Ravens and Diontae Johnson have agreed to separate for the time being, but that wasn't a statement of release. The Baltimore Ravens are not releasing Diontae Johnson because they don't want the Steelers to sign him. Overreaction or not?
I don't think we're 3 for 3 right now. I don't think that's an overreaction either. The NFL is conspiracy theory out the wazoo. They are, if you are nervous, you are not making moves. Why would they not want him here? You suspend him for a game, okay? He wasn't in your game plan before that. Now you're excusing him for a week? Why? Why not just release him? Why not suspend him? I understand that you want to punish him, but you only suspended him one game. You didn't do anything else. If you wanted to really, really hurt him, suspend him for 3 games. Suspend him for the rest of the season like the 49ers did with Tavondre Campbell. I mean, why not do that? Instead, they said we're suspending him for one game. Now we're excusing him for the week, and John Harbaugh won't answer any questions about it. If you go back and watch the press conference, he's asked about it twice. Twice he says, yeah, I'm just focused on the Pittsburgh Steelers, man. What? I mean, I believe so 100%. Not because Diontae is going to come in here and play for the Steelers. I don't think that's it. I don't think that's what makes them nervous. I think it's because, and maybe I'm getting a little bit too conspiracy theory here, but I've covered the NFL for a long time. I know how real these things are. Trust me, I know how real these things are. I think it's because they don't want Diontae to go sign a real cheap deal in Pittsburgh, show up there on Thursday, and give them all their secrets offensively so that they got to change their complete offensive game plan against Pittsburgh. And if you keep them around, you're going to do it. You're going to be able to see them all week long. You want to know what I think happens? And stamp this if anybody wants to challenge me come Monday. I think they release him on Friday. I think they waive him on Friday at 4:00 so that he clears waivers on Monday, isn't able to talk to anybody until then, and does not have the opportunity to give the Pittsburgh Steelers their game plan.
Man, you're deep in conspiracy theory territory with that one. I mean, it would make sense, not to mention the fact that it makes sense that the Steelers would go sign Diontae Johnson anyway, potentially.
Yeah.
Because that just feels like a Steelers thing to do. It feels like a Mike Tomlin thing to do, despite the fact that they, I don't want to say ran him out of town, but I mean, a 1-for-1 trade is essentially saying we value that player more than we value you.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not like they ran him out of town, but it does feel like something where they would say, well, we're desperate now. Better the evil we know than the evil we don't, which is going into the playoffs or going into these last couple of weeks with George Pickens on the sideline and not knowing if anybody else is going to step up. But I still very, very deep in conspiracy theory territory there.
The NFL, man, it's way more conspiracy theory than anybody wants to admit. And it is, there's a reason that if you go to UPMC Rooney Sports Complex and you go in the back, there are 100-foot black tarps hung right in the air. Why? I mean, you tell me.
Bill
you
Belichick,
tell me, my friend. Bill Belichick. I was on the elevator with a Ravens guy decked in Ravens stuff in Philadelphia. I said, what are you doing here? He said, oh, there's like a dozen of us here. I said, all right, sounds good. Sounds good.
I got one more, and then we got a couple from the listeners, but let's go to my last one first. The Steelers have the least momentum of any current playoff team in the AFC.
Okay, so those teams. This is an overreaction. I'll get to it because the one just popped in my head. The Kansas City Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're still, it was an overtime win against the Browns, but they still won. They're above them. The Buffalo Bills are the hottest team in football right now. Who else we got? The Baltimore Ravens just beat the Giants. Okay, so they have momentum more than the Steelers do. The Denver Broncos, red hot right now. Red hot. Houston Texans are winning games. Who else is in there?
The Denver Broncos are the last one.
No.
Or sorry, not the Denver Broncos, the Chargers.
The Los Angeles Chargers are not. They are actually so concerningly not hot right now that I wouldn't be surprised if they don't make playoffs at all. That's where we are. I mean, Indianapolis and Miami's just got to win out, and LA's got to lose out, but they're looking more like a team that could lose out than win out where we stand currently. I would say the Steelers are easily behind the Chargers on this one. They're 2, but they're behind the Chargers for sure.
I mean, that's still not a great place to be. The Chargers, sometimes they charge you, even with a Harbaugh at the helm. But to 100%. Be the next team right there next to them, it's not a safe spot to be, even if you're the number 3 seed in the Pittsburgh Steelers right now.
Agreed. And where the Steelers want to go, I mean, the momentum in Kansas City and Buffalo right now is red hot. And it's not the team that's the best. It's the team that's the hottest heading into the postseason.
Well, we got a couple listener overreactions that were submitted earlier today. Let's start with Sajan, who says the Steelers beat the Ravens this week. Then they sit all their starters for the remainder of the season to avoid any injuries. Meanwhile, Kyle Allen will beat both the Chiefs and the Bengals.
Why not? If the Chiefs win this week, They'd have to win one more game to get into the postseason. That's what they would, to claim the one seed. That's what they would have to do. I don't know who they play this week, but I don't believe it's anybody real vicious. If they beat them, why wouldn't you take that to, who is it?
The Texans.
Nah. It's a big one.
Yeah, it's there.
It's a big one. Patrick Mahomes wins that game. I mean, maybe. I would say maybe. Kyle Allen would be awesome. I think it's an overreaction because who's Kyle Allen throwing the football to? It's Scotty Miller and Ben Skoranek. And that's it. Mike Williams. That might be a boost, to be honest. That might be a boost for him. I would say Michael Pruitt is the guy catching at tight end. I would go that's an overreaction. Kyle Allen, I like Kyle Allen. He wouldn't even have a weapon to throw the football to. Cordero Patterson is going to be his running back. I mean, John LeGlue is going to come in here and play tackle. It could get real bad real fast. Real fast.
Speaking of real bad real fast, that is also the Bengals defense in week 18. So you never know. Not to mention, listen, Kyle Allen, perfect completion percentage this year.
That's true. Great looking pass
on his name.
Great looking pass. Maybe you beat Cincinnati. I got a hard time believing the land of 33-year-old misfit toys is beating the Kansas City Chiefs on Christmas.
You never know. Maybe it's a miracle on Acrisure Stadium in the Candy Cane games is what the NFL
Could you imagine if everybody showed up to the Christmas game, bought tickets, missed Christmas with their families for Kyle Allen to play quarterback?
Against Carson
Wentz. Could you imagine? The Netflix would lose billions on that game.
Let's go over to plausible deniability, who says the Pittsburgh Steelers are no different than the Pittsburgh Steelers of the last several years. We will be a one and done in the playoffs, and the cycle continues for the foreseeable future. This is our inescapable destiny.
I don't know about inescapable. That might make it an overreaction. If you're just going to get down to the nitty gritty of these things, unescapable, like that might be the overreaction. But if you ask me today, if the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to go into Houston or play Houston and win, I don't know. If they somehow fall out of this and they got to play in Houston, I don't know. If they lose all three, they find themselves in a situation where they're below one of these teams and they got to go to Buffalo. I don't know, man. I don't know. Could get real bad real fast. Baltimore is the same way. I do think the Steelers are still a favorite to win a playoff game. I do. I still think that the road is on their side to win a playoff game. I don't know how strongly I view them as a Super Bowl contender where we sit today, but I do still think that they are destined to win a playoff game because I do think they beat the Chargers. I do think they beat Houston. I do think they beat Denver. And if for some reason Indianapolis gets in there, I think they beat Indianapolis too. So I would say, unless you got to play Baltimore, that could change things. But I would say right now, destiny is making this an overreaction.
All righty, let's go over to Vibin with the Dog. Says Russell Wilson isn't as good as fans think he is and has skated by because of sorry defenses like the Jets, the Giants, the Ravens, the Browns, and the Bengals, and that will make the Steelers, once again, one and done in this year's playoffs.
Whew. I would say overreaction. I don't know if you've watched Baltimore's defense, but it's gotten good since that Pittsburgh Steelers game. I don't know if you've watched Cleveland this year, but their defense has also had some moments where you're feeling pretty good about it. Cincinnati's is terrible. The Giants is terrible. The Jets are terrible. I get it. But I'm not gonna sit here and say we have been flabbergasted, bamboozled, one would say, by Russell Wilson. I'll just say that without George Pickens against the Philadelphia Eagles, who are the hottest team in football outside of the Bills, they did not look good. And I don't know what anybody expected, but I didn't expect them to look good. That's why it was the first time this season I picked them to lose. That's why every time I was in an Uber in Philadelphia, I saved myself probably getting dropped off 15 blocks from where I was supposed to be by saying, yeah, man, I think Philly might have this one. Why? Because Philadelphia's red hot, man. They are just a team that looks like a Super Bowl team, and the Steelers look like a team that are still trying to figure it out or get beat up in the process. So I would say that's an overreaction. I don't think we've been fooled. Russ looks good, really good at times. He's doing a lot of good things. He needs some weapons. And I would say we were fooled by the Mike Williams belief if we're going to be fooled by anything.
Let's go over to the live chat here with Sigtor, who says, overreaction, Roman Wilson was a wasted draft pick.
What are we doing here? Why would he be in a wasted draft? The Roman Wilson thing blows my mind. And I get it. This is an overreaction. And it's overreaction Tuesday. Roman Wilson's been hurt all season long. You can't predict injuries. You don't get to decide if injuries make you good or not. If he never plays in the NFL, yeah, wasted draft pick. But one season where he's dealt with injuries all year long is not the reason he's a wasted draft pick. I mean, he just got bad luck. We saying Logan Lee and Ryan Watts, Calvin Austin 2 years ago, all wasted draft picks? No, that's not what we do here. Kenny Pickett was a wasted draft pick. Okay? That's a wasted draft pick. Kendrick Green was a wasted draft pick. Kevin Dotson was a wasted draft pick. Devin Bush was a wasted draft pick. Roman Wilson, and I get it, this is an overreaction, and it is by far our biggest of the day, is just a rookie who's hurt. That's all he is. Overreaction.
I was about to say, if you're going to say Roman Wilson was a wasted pick, then you have to keep that same energy for Troy Fautanu, which
Troy
I don't agree
Fautanu,
with either
wasted pick.
But especially because Troy against Denver looked phenomenal, and then of course gets hurt in practice the next week. So I don't think that you could label anybody first and foremost, even if they play and struggle. You cannot claim somebody is a wasted pick after their rookie season. There's people doing that about Caleb Williams. You have to wait because players develop. That's part of the NFL. College football is no longer a developmental sport. It is a win now sport. NFL, first couple of years, some of these players have to develop. Some of them don't. Some of them show up like Jamar Chase, but that is certainly the exception and not the rule. Players, they need to develop, and you certainly can't call somebody a wasted pick just because they were injured.
Agreed. Overreaction.
Let's go to this one here from Tyler B, who says, overreaction. Peyton Wilson should start over E-Rob strictly based off of his coverage skills.
Depends on the team. Philadelphia, it didn't make sense for Peyton Wilson to be out there. I get it that E-Rob got taken advantage of a couple of times, but that's Philadelphia is a running football team. They've always been a running football team. So you'd have to imagine they were going to run against the Pittsburgh Steelers. It just depends on the team. Kansas City, you start Peyton Wilson or you play Peyton Wilson more. Baltimore, you play E-Rob a lot more. It just depends on the personnel and the team you're playing. I would say overreaction simply because it's not about getting beat. It's about the Steelers being in situations where you got to take advantage of the team that you're playing. E-Rob is really good against teams like the Eagles should be. The Eagles decided they were just going to throw the ball all over the place because A.J. Brown was crying about it.